Hello, welcome to the Rise Up with Margarita show. I'm Margarita, and if we haven't met yet, I am Margarita Alcantara, and I help the new Earth leaders activate light and empowerment for the planet, create epic businesses through power activations and mentorship. So welcome to the Rise Up with Margarita show. It is my weekly Monday, 2 p.m. US Eastern Time show where I am really helping to bring in tools, give you updates, and really help you rise up and really apply yourselves as light workers, taking that action to really make a difference in the world. So hello, welcome, ya Queen Warrior. Good to see you here. And Jenny and Brooke and Shanta. So welcome. So good to see you here. So today's topic, last week, I'm already forgetting. We talked about visibility, right? But my point is that we are going into another topic today about visibility, and this one is the secret to being in your authentic expression. So I'm going to share something. I actually got some downloads yesterday that I wanted to just quickly share with you. I didn't realize that it was going to tie in so perfectly to this topic. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you about how I transformed being afraid of my truth and turned it into being empowered in it. I'm going to share with you why opting out of being in your authentic expression as a light worker is no longer an option. And this is where I'm going to share with you the downloads that came in yesterday. And it came in from Gaia. So it's not like, I'm just like, oh, look at me, listen to me talk, right? Like I'm literally just sharing a message with you because it's super important, and you get to be embodied in your power now for the reasons I'm going to share in a moment. And then I'm going to share with you the secret to being in your authentic expression. And then I'm going to answer any questions that you may have if time allows. So first of all, one of the things that I've noticed, one thing I've heard a lot when light workers either talk to me or leave DMs or leave comments or anything like that is something to the effect of, I love how you're able to authentically share who you are, or I really admire how you're able to just put yourself out there, something to that effect. But the reality is I was not born that way. In fact, I'm an introvert. And a lot of, that's an excuse that a lot of light workers say is, oh, I can't do that. I'm an introvert. It's like, no, you can, because I'm an introvert too, right? And you get to be empowered as an introvert light worker, and I mean, I was that type of person that literally I would wear long sleeves during summer and even during tropical weather because I would rather not be seen, right? Like that's how, like I would prefer to be invisible at that time when I was a child, right? Like I didn't want to be seen literally, like I just didn't want people to look at me. And so I would literally cover up as much as possible so people wouldn't look at me, right? But here's the thing. When you're called to a destiny, you're just called to your destiny, right? And so, I mean, my last name begins with A, so that means I was called on first for everything in class, for roll call, for anything. I was always called first, to my severe dismay. Okay. And so, I didn't want to be called first. I just wanted to be called last. I didn't want people to look at me again, because I was an introvert and also an empath introvert at that, right? And I still am. And so when you're an empath, of course, you're picking up other people's feelings and energies, and you're like, oh my God, I don't even want to be around all these people, right? And then one thing that I would discover later, which was around 6 years ago, was that I'm also a starseed, and I came into that awareness at that time. And once I awakened into that, which was a result of me being with my twin flame, basically, and we activated each other into our knowings on that deeper level, on those cosmic levels, because he's super cosmic as well, super knowledgeable. And and then I was just like, doing, because I mean, I was already a light worker, I was already, by that time, 6 years ago, I'd already been having a private practice in the middle of the Flatiron District in the middle of New York City, which is still there. I'm still in private practice. It's been 13 years. And, where I provide, acupuncture, Reiki, because I'm a licensed acupuncturist, a Reiki master teacher. and also now a medicine woman, and initiated in the mind whole tech tradition. And my greater work that encompasses all this is the power activation work, because it's epic, this power activation work that I do, and my clients know what I'm referring to, right? And it's really an experiential thing. It's like I can share about it, I can have them share about it, but until you're actually in it, you're just like, oh damn, this is intense, right? This is amazing, right? Which is why, the work that I do is really only for those light workers who are already connected to their heart, already knowing what their purpose is, which, by the way, is not your day job. It's not that you're a healer. It's not that you're here to help people, because we're all here to do that, right? But the point being is that once you open into your greater work, it's like you can't shut that door anymore, right? And that's basically what happened with me once I awakened as a starseed and became aware of the reality that I can actually activate people's divine power in the DNA level. And it took me a while. Like, part of the reason why I was so afraid to speak my truth, like whether it be on videos, social media, was because I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to sound like a nut job, I mean, that was like my biggest fear. And that's also a big thing that I hear from a lot of you and a lot of light workers that are just like, and let me tell you for a fact, right? Because over the weekend, if you are one of those people who was checking out my stories, and if you're not checking out my stories, you should be checking out my stories, because I ask questions, I share a little bit more about myself behind the scenes and things like that, and things I'm moving through. Hey, Zachary. Thank you so much. Thank you for clarifying that your soul's purpose is much more specific than I'm a healer, LOL. Yeah, because I mean, it's a lot more than that. Like, we get that you're this epic healer, but like, what is your transformation, right? It is probably going to sound more like, what I just shared at the beginning of this broadcast, right? Which is, you know, I help the new leaders, the new earth leaders, to activate light in the world, light and empowerment in the world, build epic businesses through power activation and mentorship, right? Like, that's, it sounds like a mission statement, and I guess it is, but it's really, the level of transformation I provide, right? So it is a lot more than just, I'm a healer, I help people, right? Like, I mean, we all do that, okay? So, but you have a very specific thing that only you do. And, maybe other light workers might have a nuance, right? And I'm loving, your Queen Warrior says, I liberate hearts from trauma. That's beautiful. And it gets even to be even more specific than that, right? So anyway, that's something I do with my private clients. But anyway, the point being is that over the weekend, I put out a question, asking people, what is holding you back from being in your authentic expression? And a lot of it was a reflection of the stuff that I used to deal with. I don't anymore. But it was stuff like, one person said family. Another one said, I'm still tied to a time-consuming job, and in parentheses, you got to pay the bills, right? Was, and that's this assumption, right? That in order to be responsible with your money, in order to be responsible with your life, you need to do what we were all taught to do if you went through any kind of public school in the US, which is to become an employee, right? Like, but you're not an employee, right? Like, most people who find me, they are trying to actually transition from being, someone else's employee to being their own boss, and doing their sacred work, right? Because that's really, really important right now. Another one said, being able to hold all the energy that moves inside me when I'm out there. Like, I'm literally reading off some of the feedback that I got when I posed that question over the weekend in stories. And that's another thing, right? Is like, oh my God, how do I contain all this energy that I have within me and channel it in this kind of cohesive, understandable, accessible way, right? And that's another thing that some people have shared with me is, one thing I really love about your work and your content, Margarita, is that you make things easy to access. And the reason I make things easy to access is because I know, like, we want to talk about, oh yes, and then the cosmos and the spaceships and, the galactic emissaries. And, I get into all of that, right? I do. And if you go at it from that place with a person who's just learning to understand all that, they're going to be like petrified, right? Like you get to think about what your ideal client is working with and what they're moving through, right? And they're going to want to go into that galactic etheric space. But if you go straight in with that, they're just gonna be like, holy shit, what is that? Right? Because I mean, they're still dealing with their like, do I accept myself? And like, and that's a reflection of a lot of these shares, right? Is I'm afraid what someone else said, doubts what other people from other people that would dismiss it as spiritual juju and instead refer to what they think, right? That's super common. And then another person said family, right? So there are fears that are holding you back from stepping up in a more authentic expression. Because if you're already doing that, awesome, right? But there's a next level we all get to go to. Like I get to go to a next level too. And that's something that, is in the works. And if you're a light worker who has a big calling in the world, it's your job to get that shit done, honey. Get that shit done. Meaning, show up. Show the F up, my love, right? Show up because the world needs to hear what you got to share, right? So that's what some of the responses were when I posed that question. But getting back to my story around how I then transformed this fear, right? Because I was petrified. I often talk about the first live I ever did, which was a Facebook Live, I think maybe 4, maybe even 5 years ago now, I don't remember. As I lovingly refer to it kind of like poking a hot fork in my eye. That's how eager I was to be in my authentic truth. I did not want to do it. Okay, that was the bottom line. I didn't want to do it, but my coach, was just like, you're being called to this, do your live, and then not only just do a live, it was, talk about being a starseed for the first time in my life and talk about my mission as a starseed. So literally it was like go all out, go all out. And that's why I was petrified, because I can talk about being a licensed acupuncturist until the cows come home. I could talk about energy and all this other stuff until the cows come home, but talking about my journey, talking about being a starseed, this person who talks to Gaia, this person who's a Syrian high priestess, and this Syrian blue Melchizedek, like, I mean, all of that, I was petrified, right? Because I mean, that's, I was like playing false loops in my head of family members, exes coming out of the woodwork, childhood friends saying, oh my God, I knew Margarita was crazy, right? Like, I mean, I played all of that out in my head. Did any of that happen? No. It's been like 5 years, I think, since I've done a live. I haven't gotten any of that shit. I haven't. Not even a peep of like, Margarita, you're nuts. Not even once. Maybe in like the comments with, because, you're on social media and have a big following. And so, you'll get random people like pop in and make comments, but I've also adjusted my settings on Instagram to handle those kinds of things. And, but the point being is that I just went up and did it, right? Like 4 or 5 years ago, whenever I, decided to, okay, bite the bullet, I'm going to tell my whole story, share all of this, right? And so this is super important to remember, right? That like, I mean, anyone you admire on social media or anywhere who you feel is like in their authentic expression, they weren't born that way. They were not born that way. I mean, I was born the opposite of that. I was born like wanting to just like live in a hut and be happy with that, right? Like up on a mountain somewhere and not deal with people. I was very happy with that. But the point being is that I got out of my own way because my fears and my fears of being judged took the back seat to service and my message, right? And so now I've been teaching about it ever since, of how to like show up and be, even more in your power as a light worker and really show up in your authentic expression, and also bring in clients that are aligned, right? And to have your epic business as a spiritually conscious entrepreneur. So that is exactly what I've been doing. And that's also why I'm now going to segue into, here's why opting out of being in your authentic expression as a light worker is no longer an option. So one of the biggest takeaways I learned from just going up and doing it, ripping off that Band-Aid, talking about being a starseed in my very first live, right? Even though I was just like, I don't care. I kind of honestly don't care at this point. Like, I don't care if people say that I'm nuts or whatever, because I know I'm not. Because by that time I'd already, accepted the fullness of who I am. I wasn't, by that point I was like no longer, leading with my fears, because that's what a lot of light workers do, is they lead with their like, well, I'm not really comfortable saying this, and it feels super vulnerable to say that, or people think I'm crazy. Well, if you're going to lead with that, fear, then guess what? Um, you're not going to make that impact. You just won't. Because if you're going to like hang out and just like be on your sofa in the comfort of your own home or your bed or whatever, and you don't like deal with people, that's one way to do it, right? But I'll tell you, you're not going to impact the world in a bigger way that way. Because I get it, I do the same stuff too. I do grid work, I work with Gaia, I do all kinds of things with galactic emissaries and the ships and the crafts that are around us. I'm doing a lot of higher work that are not even like on this plane. And I just do that every day, and I also know that if I really want to make a big difference in the world and make an impact in the world, that means going out and helping people. That means showing up and helping people with, what they're creating in the world. And, as a light worker, that's your job as well, to really get out there and, be in your truth, not just for the sake of being in your truth, because of course you get to experience that, have that, embody that, but also because you are here for a higher calling. And if you are listening to that higher calling, you're actually making those steps and doing all those uncomfortable things that you really don't want to do, that you've been putting off doing because you're just afraid. And yes, you know what I'm talking about. So it's only when you actually get out of your own way and allow yourself to do those things that you are most petrified of and get it done. Get it done, right? And a lot of light workers will be like, oh, I'm not only afraid of the judgment, but it's not going to look perfect. And, I have tech issues. And it's like, you can figure out the tech issues, right? All you need is your phone and lighting so people can see your face, and then speaking up and not looking at yourself in the camera like I'm doing right now, right? Like you're actually looking at the lens. And on Facebook here, I'm looking at the lens, right? But if you're constantly looking at yourself, people are going to be like, what is she looking at? I'm right here, right? And that's one of the biggest mistakes I see light workers make, is that they just keep looking at themselves in the camera. But all you need is a phone, good enough lighting, and you speaking up enough so that people can hear and understand you. That's all you need. So you don't need tripods and, tech and all this other stuff. And I mean, by now I do have all of that, right? It's been like, what, 5 years or something. So I got my techniques. And those things I've shared once in a while on social media, in my feed, sometimes on my live. I definitely share that with my private clients because, they're getting out and being more visible, right? And you need your tools and you need to know what you're doing. So that's something I really help them with. But that's one thing that I understood within myself, that I was no longer willing to tolerate being invisible and staying in my comfort zone and not showing up in my vision, not showing up and helping people, not showing up and being of service. Because here's a story for you. If you were on a beach and you saw someone in the water flailing with their arms, like they're obviously having a difficult time, right? Maybe they're even drowning, right? Or something is going on where they're frantic and they need help, right? They're drowning over there. They need help. Are you going to sit there on the shore and be like, oh, wait a minute, like I'm scared, of like, I don't like to step on the seaweed, or, whatever your thing is, right? Like, or you're saying, oh, wait, I'm not perfect. Like my hair isn't perfect. My outfit isn't perfect. My shoes are not perfect, right? All the excuses you make because you're not comfortable getting in the water, right? But if you see someone drowning off the shore, you're going to go out there and in whatever you look like, and you're just going to go out there and help them. And this is the same thing. I see so many light workers are like, oh no, I can't do that because I might get judged by my mom or my aunt or my ex or a childhood friend, or, I'd be coming out of the spiritual closet, or I don't like how, like I'm 5 pounds heavier than I should be, or I don't like my hair, or, whatever your thing is, or I'm not perfect enough. I don't have the tech. Those are all excuses. Someone out there is drowning in their pain, in their suffering, and they need your help, right? So instead of being all like, me, I'm uncomfortable, I don't like how I look today, or, whatever, a light worker who is empowered will go out there and save that person, right? So even if you can save one person, help one person out with your post, with your live, with your video, it is absolutely worth it, right? Barb is saying, yeah, wow, what a paradigm shift. Yes, put it into perspective. Put it into perspective. This is not about you. Like, I mean, if you haven't gotten it by now, your Lightworker purpose is not about you. It's not about you and your personal fears and the judgments that you're afraid you're going to get and all the people who are going to think you're crazy because you finally said you're a starseed or an empath or a Lightworker, or that you have abilities. Like, are you willing to just stay there and ruminate, or are you going to save that person who's drowning? I mean, that's kind of what it comes down to, right? And someone's sharing, you're definitely right. I keep a folder of messages from clients um, and strangers, I guess that word is supposed to be, to remind myself of potency. Absolutely. Another one is saying so much truth that wants to come out. Absolutely. So, so that's one reason why opting out of your authentic expression is not an option anymore. It's just not an option. Also, you literally incarnated on this planet, at this time, not just randomly at this time, like for this time, to be embodied in your truth and help the planet heal and rise in consciousness. That's really, really important, right? And so another thing is, if you don't, you're literally ignoring your soul's calling to share the deep healing and transformation you provide. That's just going to happen, right? If you don't, that's what's going to happen. You just will not embody your light worker purpose. You just won't, And so that's super, super important to realize. And also, humanity's at a crossroads, and you're being called forward to usher in the new earth, right? So make sure that you're taking actions towards that, right? Because if you're not, and you're instead staying in your fear, then you're not showing up, right? If your comfort level is the priority, if your worry and your concern about, do I look good enough? Do I have the perfect thing to say? And being more concerned about you rather than showing up in your mission, guess who you're making it about? Not the people you can help, that's for sure, right? And then here's another thing. So I received a download. Yesterday. Someone's sharing, it was the best decision to listen to this live today. Thank you so much. Something switched up into me. Awesome. That's really great. Good, good, good. So I got a download yesterday from Gaia. For those of you OGs who've been following me for a while, you know that, I'm an embodiment of Gaia. I connect with her a lot. I've been on this planet since before when it was called Terra and all the continents were fused into one still. I've been here for a long time. I've been here for, I don't know, a couple of eons. I'm definitely at least 4 billion years old, and so is Stacy, my beloved. But here's the thing, is that as a result of this relationship that I've had with Gaia for so long, we have this connection. And so I talk with her every day. And so sometimes it's just, I get upgrades and whatever from her. But sometimes she gives me some like point blank messages that I need to just like sit up and listen to about, right? And she gave me one of those yesterday. And at first I thought she was just sharing it to me personally, but it's also for humanity. And it's going to be something that I'm going to do a reel about later to share in more detail about. But basically she said, you know, be steadfast. And I said, okay, well, where'd that come from? Basically, right? Like, I mean, where is that coming from? And she said, you know, it's going to get more intense, and you're going to need to hold the line because a lot of people are going to lose their minds. And I already knew that, but it looks like the time is fast approaching, right? And I'm not going to get into all the details on that because that's something that she shared with me today, that's not important for me to get into. But what I will say is that, you know, times are going to get more intense. You know, you think since 2020 it's been like the pinnacle? No, 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 my dear. That is why I have been talking incessantly, constantly about light workers being embodied in their power, being activated in their power, because sure, you might eventually get there eventually someday on your own, but the reality is, you know, I access that very quickly. I activate that instantly within you, for those who are ready to do that deeper work with me, because I really hold a very strong space of light for my private clients. And, you know, I mean, it's super powerful, I'll just say, right? Um, so Gaia said, basically, continue with the practices. And at that time, she was referring to me, saying, you know, continue with the practices that you're doing, you know, with the grounding, the self-care, and, you know, all the stuff that light workers are supposed to do anyway. And just really, you know, hold the line, because it's going to get more intense. And I've had visions of it since like 2 years ago, around, you know, like when I had my birthday, like I think it was 2 years ago in 2020, I had like a massive vision about what's going to be happening on the planet and in my personal life. And I shared a little bit about it on social media. But you know, I already know what's going to be happening. And so that's why I'm always calling forward light workers to be embodied in their power. And a lot of light workers have just been like, yeah, I'll get to it. I'll get to it. Right. But eventually you're not going to just get to it. You're going to need it. You're going to need it, because it's not a luxury. It's not something to tack on as an a la carte menu, right? Like, I mean, being in your power right now, it's going to save your ass. It's really going to save your ass. And I'm just calling it as it is, right? So that is why it is so important. And I'll share more details about it in the reel I'm going to make later today about the intel that came through and more background around that. And just as a reminder for those who are kind of new here to these lives, I won't be answering questions until the end, because a lot of questions come in. And also the questions get to be connected to the topic at hand, because otherwise answering other people's questions about their spiritual journey and stuff, that's not the point of this broadcast, right? So the topic of today is the secret to being in your authentic expression. And what I covered so far was how I transformed being afraid of my own personal truth and into being empowered in it, and how I'm now like really showing up just authentically. And of course, wherever you're at, you get to go to the next level. And I get to do that too, which is something I really embrace and opening into. And then I also covered why opting out of being in your authentic expression as a light worker is no longer an option. And now here, the secret to being in your authentic expression, which I've peppered in, you know, here and there during the earlier part of the broadcast. And it's really, first of all, about fully and completely accepting all of who you are, all of who you are, all of your abilities, all of your powers, all of your amazingness, all of your potential, really embracing all of it, and leading your truth from a place of service, alignment, and consistency. So all of that is super important. And the reason why is because, first of all, why I mentioned really accepting yourself above and beyond everything of who you are. Like, accepting your shadows. Like, I mean, you should be doing all that shadow work anyway, right? And I'm not going to go into detail about how to do that in this live, right? Because that's something that you can Google. But the point being is that you get to fully embrace all of who you are. Because if you don't embrace all of who you are, your abilities, your talents, your gifts, then what's going to happen is you're going to start questioning yourself. You're going to start being more worried and afraid about other people's opinions about you. And you're going to be like, oh my God, but what if my aunt sees this? Or what if my ex sees this? Or what if someone, insert in the blank, insert name in the blank sees this, right? What if they see that? And then what if I come out of the spiritual closet? If you're not out of the spiritual closet already, time to open that door, honey. Open that door, because it is time. This is no longer the time to be all sheepish and be like, oh my God, who am I to be so powerful, right? It's time to get beyond that and embrace the reality of the power that you are. Because when you do, all of those doubts and those fears of like, well, what if this person says that? What if this person judges me? What if this person does that, right? That is no longer important. Like, I honestly don't care about, the hater comments, but also you should not be placing major importance either on getting approval, getting validation, getting permission. You shouldn't be waiting for that. You should be giving that to yourself. Like, you're the number one person who should be giving that to yourself. And if you're not, start now, right? Because the thing is, if you don't accept yourself, it will come out. It will come out in so many ways. First of all, you probably will not show up speaking your authentic truth because you're going to be too concerned about other people's opinions about you. And you're going to allow strangers and acquaintances to dictate your purpose and whether or not you show up into it. That's really what's going to happen. And you're going to lead with your fear if you do not embrace the totality of who you are, right? And then when I share around leading your truth from a place of service, alignment, and consistency, is because when you lead your truth from a place of service, meaning that even if you're afraid that you're going to get judged for whatever you're about to say, that you share it because it's literally a channeled message from God, from the divine, right? And you're literally this mouthpiece of the divine, and you're aware of it and you embrace it and you show up as that. That's service. Because, I've been in so many places where, I've been petrified to speak my truth about certain topics, right? And especially now as people are getting, shadow banned and banned, period, and censored and all this stuff. It's like there are ways to share, and it's up to you how you want to share, right? Like, as long as it's in service, as long as it's in alignment, right? And I say alignment because sometimes when I say prioritize speaking your truth, then light workers take that to mean emotionally vomit all over their audience. That is not what I'm talking about, right? Like, if you're having a bad day and then you emotionally transmit that in your feed, which I've seen so many light workers do, and be like, oh my God, blah, 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 and they start complaining on social media, right? That is not you being in alignment. That's not you being in your light worker truth. That's just you bitching, honestly. That's you complaining. And you don't need to be sharing that energy with your audience, right? As something that I teach all the time is share from the healed scar, not from the raging wound, right? Because so many light workers who are not yet in alignment really do that thing where they just emotionally spew all over the place and call it speaking their truth. That's not speaking your truth. That's complaining. And that's and that's, if you want to talk about vibration, that's super low vibration, right? So and your audience doesn't deserve that. Your audience doesn't deserve that. They deserve to receive your teachings. They deserve to receive your messages, your wisdom, the downloads that you're getting, right? So that they can heal, so that they can elevate, so that they can raise their consciousness, so that they can, clear out, transmute what they're moving through, right? So I also mentioned the consistency piece because a lot of light workers be like, yeah, I'm on my power, I just did my live. It's like being in your power is a lot more than just having a good day where you're getting tons of downloads. Being in your power takes a lot more than just like showing up once on a live and calling it a day, right? Being in your power as a light worker means you can replicate these experiences. That's something that I teach my clients on the private level how to replicate, right? Because it's one thing to like have a good day where you're feeling awesome and like maybe it's the some special date like 8-8 portal or the Lion's Gate or something, and all of a sudden your crown chakra is blasting open and you're receiving downloads, right? But are you able to replicate that on a regular basis and show up and share that wisdom with your audience and your people? That's something else entirely. And if you are not consistent, meaning like, doesn't mean that you have to like show up every single day on social media, but you get to show up every day for your mission, right? And you get to be excited about that instead of like, oh my God, I don't want to do that today, right? Like if that's your approach, then you're either not connected to your mission or you're not connected to your power, you know? And so consistency, when you are consistent with what you are here to share and you are speaking from that higher frequency on a regular basis, not meaning that you need to feel 100% all the time. That's not what I'm saying, right? You get to be in your humanity, but also if you're a starseed, it's up to you to show up and speak your truth, right? Some of these comments are interesting. And also, by the way, I'm only going to be engaging with those comments that are connected to the topic at hand and that would serve others, right? Anything that is more self-serving, I'm not even acknowledging it. Just putting that out there. So I hope this makes sense around the secret to being your authentic expression, how you get to accept yourself fully, all of your light worker abilities, all of your power, all of your light, really embracing that and really, being diligent about cultivating that light, right? Because that's also part of, adding to being in your authentic expression is, are you regularly clearing out your energy field? Are you actively, having protective practices, especially right now? Stacy's asking, how do we know if we are a starseed or not? I have a starseed quiz in my Instagram bio, and I think it's like the third or fourth link down. Click on that, and it's a starseed quiz. For anyone who is wondering, am I a starseed? Take that quiz. You'll find out. And then also, I recommend that you get the Starseed Power video activation that is also on my website, right? Because that will be super activating. And I get a lot of really powerful, amazing feedback from those light workers who check out that activation. So this is really, really important. Mama Hawk says, whoa, I popped on Divine Timing. Thank you. This is a great topic. Not shared often. Yeah, and it should be shared more, right? And so that said, let me know if this is serving you. I'm going to take a few questions related to this topic about being in your authentic expression as a light worker. Anything outside of that, won't be responding to. So go ahead and let me know in the comments. And for those of you who are just joining us, the topic today is the secret to being in your authentic expression. I talked about my story about how I transformed, being afraid of speaking my truth to being empowered in doing so. And then, why it's no longer an option for light workers to opt out of their visibility. And then sharing around the secret to being in your authentic expression. So let me know if you have any questions about being a light worker and being in your authentic expression. So this is a little bit connected. There's a topic, a question here around money. And I've had many lives where I've talked about money. You can scroll through my Instagram. The second, I think it's like the third one, two, like two swipes to the left, and you'll get connected to my video page. And just like scroll down, I talk about money often. And even in some of my posts, I talk about money. But this question says, any advice for those light workers starting to step out and serve others regarding pricing? Because most of the time we are taught you should not receive money for good works. Bullshit. It is pure bullshit. I've been doing this for 13 years. And I'm not saying bullshit because I have a private practice, right? I'm saying that is the oldest piece of old paradigm crap I've ever heard. Because if you're putting work out there, if you're showing up in service, there gets to be an energetic exchange, a lot more than just, oh, thanks for that. Thanks for realigning all my chakras and all that. Like, no, right? Like, you get to be paid for the transformation you provide. And I'm not going to go too deep into pricing itself, because that's something I do with my private clients, because I go really deep into, okay, what are your offers? Who are you serving? Let's price this at a pricing that's aligned, right? Because what a lot of light workers do is that they price per hour, which is like old paradigm way, like, $1 per hour, or whatever, or they just like totally undercharge if they're charging at all. And let me tell you what happens, okay, when you don't charge for your services, or if you grossly undercharge for your services as a light worker, as a healer, providing powerful transformation in the world. First of all, you're out of integrity with yourself. Secondly, people who are out of integrity will come to you, because that's what you're attracting, right? You will get the people who are just looking to get the cheapest price. And so they're just going to go shopping basically for whatever's cheaper. And anyone who is looking for whatever's cheaper, instead of, am I going to get what I pay for? Am I going to get the level of transformation I want, right? Those are not your people. If they're not going for the transformation that you provide and they're just shopping around, that should be a red flag right there. Those are not your people. Because people who are more concerned about like, oh, wow, that's really expensive. Your stuff should be expensive, and not expensive like, out of alignment expensive. I'm talking about, aligned with the level of transformation you provide. And, so, I mean, I think the first thing I would say, if there's still that resistance around charging what you're worth and what the level of transformation is that you provide, is first of all, go look into your money stories, because everyone's got a story about money. Light workers are loaded with the most outdated bullshit stories about money. Okay, they just are. And that's because, how can you more effectively divide a people? How can you make people powerless? You divide them and make them afraid of their own power and their own abundance. And then you also make them believe that their abundance is dependent on someone else, right? And that game is being deployed right now. It is a weapon, right? There's so many weapons going on in the world right now, bioweapons, transmissions that are coming in through like vibration and sound. I mean, there's all kinds of shit going on. And I'm not going to go into all of that right now. But what I will say is it's up to you to clear your own outdated money beliefs. Start with connecting with what you learned growing up around money. So, start looking into what did you hear from your caregivers, your parents, those who raised you about money. And then, because whatever you were told, you have been carrying on into this lifetime. So stuff like, money doesn't grow on trees, or, a common light worker belief is if you receive money from a client for the services you're providing, you're taking abundance from them. That is the biggest load of crap I've ever heard, right? If someone is saying, here, I'm going to pay you for this powerful transformation that you just gave me. That's called exchange. That's called equal exchange. And also, money is just energy. And if you say that you are an energy worker, a light worker who works with the light, work with the light and the energy of money. If you're still stuck in the whole old paradigm belief of, money's evil, it's part of the capitalist patriarchy. I mean, I used to say that last one myself when I was a punk rocker, back in the day, right? But then now that it's all falling apart, I mean, I can't call that out anymore, right? Because the capitalist patriarchy is falling apart. Like if you haven't noticed, it's falling apart, right? And you are being called forward to create the new earth. And in order to create the new earth, that means you get to embrace your own paradigm shift. And that includes with money. So I hope that's helpful. I know I went off there on that because that's huge. That's huge. It's not just you, Mama Hawk. It is many, many light workers. So, your question really provided service today. So thank you for that. Okay. I'm seeing, yes, this was so mind-opening. I do feel I need more information regarding clearing and protecting. So although I won't get into all those techniques today, because that is its own live, right? I do have a blog post about it on my website at alcantaraacupuncture.com. And there's a whole tab on the top menu there that says blog. And it's actually one of my ones that I highlight on, I think, something about psychic self-protection in the concrete jungle, right? And it shares some of the things that I learned, because I'm here right in the middle of Midtown Manhattan. And, things are getting more intense. I don't share about it often, and people don't know about it because no one televises the truth anymore, especially on mainstream news. But last week, just on Tuesday, I mean, just to give you an illustration of how intense things are getting, just on this block, last Tuesday, there were like 4 ambulances on my block, and there was like sudden death for 4 individuals. One of them who had shot himself in the head. Okay, and that's just my block, right? And the truth is that even yesterday, we heard like a motorcade, and sometimes that shows we're in New York City. A lot of people go through New York City, right? And this motorcade came through though, but more in a I'm claiming this neighborhood kind of way, right? And they even burned, some building down the block from us. I mean, this is happening, people. And the reality is, if you do not step into your power, speak your truth, help others succeed and heal and open into their own power, then you are doing a disservice to yourself and to the world. And I mean, this is not about guilt tripping. It's just really about, this is the truth. This is what we're working with, okay? So in terms of clearing and protection, check out my blog posts on, psychic self-protection. And I think I called it something like protecting yourself from psychic vampires in the concrete jungle or something like that. So anyway, I talk about like clearing, protecting. I even have a whole blog on how to clear your own personal energy. So, you can check that out. Someone's asking, do you help those uncover their starseed journey? So I'm not here to kind of lead people into their awakening. The people who do the deeper work with me are already connected to that awareness within themselves. But I do have a lot of resources that are totally free. Like a lot of my blog posts, I've got that starseed quiz, to find out if you're a starseed. I've got like, 10 ways to be empowered as a starseed. I've got like all these blog posts about it and YouTube videos. And my content on social media, of course. So that should serve you. And then also, I recommend that you check out that Starseed Power Activation video that is free on my website as well. Are you planning any classes soon? Very interesting that you say that, because there is something in the works. I'm not going to share too much about it yet because it's still in process. But I will share it when the time is ready. Mama Hawk is sharing, yes, I didn't mean pricing per se, but you can and are still authentic even though you are charging for your services, and former Catholic here, LOL. Um, so yeah, and it's that whole thing of this belief, which is an old belief of, when it comes to money and light workers, I mean, if you want to divide light workers, make them hate their own power, make them hate their own abundance, and that's happening right now. It's actually part of, some dark programming, and I'm not going to get too much into that, because that also would be like alive in itself. But, that's targeting light workers and star seeds for us to be like, what's the word, repulsed by our own power, by money, by our abundance, right? Because I mean, what a perfect, I mean, just think about it. What a perfect weapon, right? If you are repulsed by your own power and by your own abundance, then, light workers who are repulsed by that, are not going to be in their power, right? So I mean, that's like a brilliant approach. But the truth is, are you willing to transform that for yourself? Okay. All right. So someone's asking, in your experience, how did expressing your authenticity become easier after your throat chakra was activated? For those who may be afraid to speak their truth, how did it become easier? Repetition. Repetition and being petrified in those first couple of episodes or broadcasts or lives. Like, I mean, because guaranteed, you're going to feel like super awkward. You're going to be like, people probably don't understand what I'm saying. Like, I look like a fool. My hair probably looks terrible. I mean, you're going to say all the things and you're going to feel super awkward, guaranteed, excuse me, in your first couple of lives or your videos or even social media posts where you're sharing more about yourself, but especially if you're on video. So how it got easier for me is that I just kept doing it. And that's how you just build your confidence. You want to feel more confident? Do it, and do it again, and then again and again and again. And that is how you gain confidence, because if you want to be confident, confidence comes from like practice and experience, and the practice and experience comes from the doing, which means that you actually need to actually apply yourself. So there will come a point where you will allow yourself to say, my vision is super important. I'm ready to help at least just one person with whatever I'm going to share right now. And it's not even about me anymore. It's about like this bigger calling that I have. And I know that I'm going to step into it now. Right. And I'm just going to rip off the Band-Aid, hit lot, whatever, go live, press that button and just start, or even just like do a video. And there are ways to even do it on the down low. So it's not like full blown like live. If you're not ready to do a full blown like live like I do every week, you can start with like, if on Instagram, and you can have this on Facebook too, because there's Facebook stories on Instagram too, but you can actually do I think you might actually have a practice story. Oh no, that might be a practice live. But there is a mechanism on Instagram, whether it be for stories or the live, where you can do the practice version of it. That said, you can also try doing Instagram or Facebook stories, because those things evaporate after 24 hours and no one will have evidence of you ever speaking about that specific topic again, unless they were to like screenshot it or something, which, if you're just starting out, it's unlikely that they're going to be doing that. And I mean, I haven't heard of that ever anyway. But just start with that. Start with the stories. And if you are not comfortable with letting it play out for being up there the whole 24 hours, then delete it. Delete it as soon as you're done with it and be like, okay, I did my story, right? And then just keep doing it. Keep doing it and doing it. And make sure that you're looking into the lens, not at your face, because this is what it looks like on Facebook if I'm looking at the lens. This is what it looks like if I'm not, right? And on Instagram here, this is me looking in the lens. This is me not looking in the lens, looking at my own face. And you can see the difference there, right? It doesn't, the second version where I'm not looking in the lens, there's a little disconnect there, right? There's a little like, Like, I'm over here, Margarita, like pay attention. So that's what it's going to feel like to your viewer. So make sure you look in the lens. That's like one of the things you should be doing for sure. So I hope that helped. Facts, the hard truth. Yes, exactly. Know your worth. Okay. Charging money is an equal exchange of energy. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, charging money. Someone's like, charging money? And then saying, I understand what you mean. Yeah, meaning that you get to charge money, like, I mean, in order, if you're going to share, if you're going to provide a high level transformation for someone, you get to charge for that, right? And if you're willing to embody this new quantum level, that's going to take you getting out of your comfort zone, seeing a new way of living your life and creating your life. That's what it's going to take. I totally appreciate that. Yes, I was taught money runs out of hands as soon as we get it. Yeah, my thing that I heard growing up was more money, more problems. That's what I heard growing up. So guess what? And this is my famous story I've said all the time. If you've been watching me for a while, I share this story of like, so guess what I did? Because if I was taught more money, more problems, I certainly didn't want more problems. So like I certainly didn't want more money, right? I mean, that just makes sense. So because I didn't want more problems and I didn't want more, so therefore I didn't want the money to create the problems, I stayed in a cockroach infested closet, living there in Hell's Kitchen. Super appropriate. Like they're trying to call it Clinton Hill now, but like it's just Hell's Kitchen, okay? In New York City, because I didn't want more problems. That's how outdated my beliefs were at one point. Obviously, I don't believe that anymore. So that's really super important to understand. Someone's asking the protection on your blog. Is the blog listed on your profile page? My alcantaracupuncture.com, my website, is listed on my profile page. The link is in my bio for my website. Once you click on that, you look at the top menu and you'll see stuff like about, services, chakras, blog, or chakra book, blog. And so just click the blog tab up there, and then you will see like, my library basically. And then on the right side, you'll see a little, some blogs I highlight because they're either popular or I've been asked about them a lot. So it's actually in that highlighted section. So I hope that helps. Guilt and shame regarding accepting money, fuck that, says someone in the comment section. Absolutely, right? Like, I mean, that's old paradigm stuff. Anywhere where you're not accepting money, like honestly, you're also not accepting love, because I mean, it's all energy, right? And this is one of the things I talk about and teach on more deeply around, because I've been initiated into that wealth consciousness, right? And when you are, and then you're applying it to your higher calling as a light worker, then it's just like a no-brainer. Like, of course I get to show up, right? Of course I get to show up and speak my truth, even though I'm petrified, right? Okay, so I'm going to take maybe one more question, if there is one. Um, so Liz is saying, thanks to you, alas, I'm stepping forward into my purpose. So we'll start today building my social media profiles around a business. I'm still starting from scratch. Thank you so much, Margarita. You're so welcome and congratulations. That's exciting. That's exciting. Make sure that before you even start your first post and before you even like put up your bio or anything, right? Get connected to who you're serving, your ideal client, as they call it, right? Because if you don't have that and then you just put out a bunch of messaging, it won't land, because your ideal client will be like super confused. And to be honest, a confused mind never buys. Like that's just like how human behavior is. So start with that. Make sure you start with that. And Matliad is saying, and the people that are meant to be there and support and grow with you will find you. That heart-centered authenticity. Absolutely. You got it. That is absolutely right. And I'm seeing another comment here. I'm currently activating my throat chakra while discovering my inner light worker. Thank you for speaking your truth. I needed to hear this shit. Yes, I'm glad. I am glad, and you're welcome. And yes, these lives are saved on Facebook and Instagram. They are saved on the video tab in Facebook. On Instagram, you swipe left twice to get to the videos, and that includes the live episodes. I found it interesting, shares someone here. I found it interesting that you said something like, it will save my ass. Is a step out of the closet now, and I should be doing that, not being led by my fear and serve others. It's not about me. Yeah, sometimes it's just that paradigm shift of like, wait a minute, it's not about me? Wait a minute, like, oh yeah, I actually have this big calling, and that means, people get to hear it. That means people get to hear it. And I love this. Liberation Codes is sharing a new belief. The more heart-centered beings receive abundance, there is a balance of energy. There is a money transfer that has been happening with the opposition, and we are here to flip that. Absolutely. And that's something I've been teaching for a while. It's this thing of, once light workers get that, when you are receiving money from, like, let's say your clients, right? You are actually then going to use that to, like, I don't know, pay a bill, buy groceries, whatever you want to use it on, right? Or even put it in your bank account. And what you're actually doing is then you are circulating, because when it comes into you, it then receives your own light codes. And then when you pay a bill, deposit it in your bank, or whatever you want to do with it, it then starts circulating out into the economy, that light frequency, right? Like, then you start creating an economy of light. So that's really important. So someone's sharing, before there was organized religion and economies, there were bartering. There has been an appreciation of skills by the exchange of goods and skills. Yeah, sure, you can do that. Let's see how that can pay your bills, okay? Because that ain't going to pull you into your abundance as a light worker in the long run. It's fine if you want to do that in the beginning when you're first starting out and you want to, like, get experience and feel more confident with your services. I mean, I did that in the beginning. I did a lot of volunteer work at the Audre Lorde Project, and like, I did a lot of volunteer work and all these other things, right? But if that's the majority of what you do, then you will not be able to be in the fullness of your abundance as a light worker. I mean, there's so many ways to be abundant on so many levels, but money is one of them, and avoiding money is not going to serve you. Okay. Yes. Mama Hawk is sharing, also starting to step out, making my business today. Congratulations, that's super exciting. You crushed the old thoughts. Well, actually, I didn't. You actually did that, right? I'm just sharing a message, and this is how healing works. You share your wisdom, you share the message, even if it might instigate people, which is really just them instigating their own healing, right? And then people receive, and then they're just like, okay, like something clicks, right? And sometimes you have to share it a couple times, and then they're like, oh yeah, it clicks, right? And I mean, we're like that. I mean, sometimes people need, like, that repetition. Therefore, that's why that consistency that I mentioned earlier was super helpful. So, okay. I love this observation. I was about to close out of the comments, but I love this comment. Essentially, you're activating the money when you use it. Yes, because when you receive it, when you receive it, you're actually infusing it with your own codes of light. And then when you spend that money, or you deposit it into your bank account, or whatever you want to do with it, then it starts to circulate, right? And then the last piece I'm going to share around this, because it is connected, receiving money activated your powers. That's what I'm getting. Well, it was a lot more than just receiving money, right? It goes a lot more deeper than that. But that's a part of that. Allowing yourself to receive money is a big piece when anyone as a light worker steps up and heals. Okay. So I hope that served you. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for taking the time to be with me this afternoon or morning, wherever you are, or evening, wherever you are. Today's topic was a secret to being in your authentic expression. And so I hope that served you today. I hope that, helped you shift on some level. Into the full truth of who you are so that you can be more embodied as you're showing up in that truth. And if this inspired you, this is just kind of like a little sample of the kind of what I share with my private clients. I mean, I obviously go deeper into a lot of the strategies, into a lot of, all the nitty gritty and all those things on how to really embody all of that. And so if you are a light worker who is either already a spiritually conscious entrepreneur or interested in that, and you're connected to your purpose, your level of transformation you provide in the world, and you want to be held from a place, because my container that I hold for my clients is very heart-centered. And if you're not connected with your heart, you're not going to get it. So, because it's really for those people who are connected with that. So if you are interested in being held very deeply and want to receive deep support and expansive guidance in your journey, really being able to anchor in your spiritual power and anchoring it into the earth and being in your impact as a light worker on the physical level, then I invite you, if you want to do that deeper work with me, if you're committed to really exploding into your light worker purpose, because as you hear, and as you heard me say earlier today, it's no longer an option. It's no longer a luxury to be in your power as a light worker. Like, you need to get that shit on fleek now, right? You really do. And so if you want that, and if you want that accelerated assistance that will hold you with deep love and deep support and guidance, then you can apply for a call. The link is in my bio. Okay, in the meantime, I will put this broadcast up for anyone who's just popping in now and wants to check out the replay. And I will see you next week, Monday, the 25th. All right, everyone, much love, light, and power to you. And have a wonderful, empowered week full of love, light, power, and compassion.